In recent hours, shocking reports have emerged from the Russian Ministry of Defense, claiming that newly deployed cruise missiles, believed to be part of a foreign arms delivery, were successfully intercepted and destroyed by Russian air defense systems. This event has not only raised questions about the effectiveness of Western-supplied weaponry but has also highlighted the evolving sophistication of Russian anti-air technology. To fully grasp the significance of this event, it is crucial to understand what a cruise missile is, how it operates, and why the downing of such missiles is seen as a major achievement in modern warfare. Cruise missiles are often referred to as the silent killers of the battlefield because of their ability to fly at low altitudes, avoid radar detection, and deliver high-precision strikes on strategic targets. Unlike ballistic missiles, which arc high into the atmosphere before descending at hypersonic speeds, cruise missiles remain close to the Earth's surface, using terrain-following radar and GPS navigation to weave their way past enemy defenses. They are designed to evade detection, penetrate layered defense systems, and strike with devastating accuracy, often carrying either conventional or nuclear warheads. For decades, military analysts considered cruise missiles one of the most formidable threats to any country's defenses, with only a handful of advanced nations claiming the ability to consistently intercept them. That is why the Russian claim of shooting down these newly delivered missiles has sparked intense debate across the global defense community, as it suggests a dramatic shift in the balance of technology and tactical superiority. The missiles in question are believed to have been advanced variants, possibly supplied through Western alliances to test Russian airspace resilience. Some sources speculate that they were next-generation models of well-known systems like the Storm Shadow, the Scalp-G, or even modified versions of American Tomahawk missiles, which have been used extensively in past conflicts in Iraq, Syria, and Libya. These weapons are expensive, highly engineered, and often equipped with stealth features, electronic countermeasures, and advanced guidance systems. Their purpose is to strike deep inside enemy territory, crippling command centers, supply hubs, radar stations, and critical infrastructure. To intercept such missiles requires a layered defense system that combines long-range radar detection, medium-range interceptors, and short-range rapid response units, all working seamlessly in real time. Russia has long boasted about its S-300, S-400, and now S-500 systems, claiming they can destroy virtually any aerial threat, including stealth aircraft, drones, and cruise missiles. Until now, many Western experts dismissed these claims as exaggerations or propaganda. But with the reported downing of multiple incoming cruise missiles, it appears Russia may have validated at least part of its bold assertions. Analysts are now examining whether this success was due to superior technology, operator skill, intelligence coordination, or perhaps even flaws in the missiles themselves. The details released so far paint a vivid picture of the engagement. According to Russian defense officials, the missiles were detected while still beyond the borders of Russian-controlled airspace. Early warning radars, possibly part of the Voronezh DM system, identified unusual low-flying objects moving at subsonic speeds. Almost instantly, alerts were sent to mobile air defense units strategically deployed near potential target zones. Eyewitnesses in the region described hearing a series of loud booms followed by streaks of light cutting across the night sky. Within minutes, Russian media outlets began reporting that the incoming missiles had been successfully neutralized before reaching their intended targets. Video clips allegedly captured by locals showed the fiery explosions of what appeared to be intercepted projectiles falling harmlessly to the ground. While these clips have not been independently verified, their circulation on social media has fueled both national pride in Russia and skepticism abroad. Western defense commentators have questioned whether all the missiles were destroyed or if some may have slipped through and struck undisclosed targets. Nonetheless, the Russian narrative is that their defenses worked flawlessly, saving potentially hundreds of lives and preventing devastating damage to critical infrastructure. To appreciate why this incident has caused such a stir, one must consider the broader context of modern warfare. Cruise missiles are not just tools of destruction, they are psychological weapons. Their sudden and precise strikes are designed to break morale, disrupt logistics, and send a message of superiority. Nations that possess and deploy them often do so with the expectation that their enemies cannot stop them. That belief has been shaken. If Russia has indeed developed the ability to consistently detect, track, and shoot down advanced cruise missiles, it could change the strategic calculus for NATO and other adversaries. The cost-benefit equation shifts dramatically when expensive missiles, which can cost millions of dollars each, are destroyed by relatively cheaper interceptor systems. It raises doubts about the sustainability of using cruise missiles as a primary strike weapon in conflicts where the enemy has advanced air defenses. Military planners around the world will be taking note of this development, as it signals a potential turning point in the offense-defense dynamic of 21st-century warfare. Furthermore, the political and symbolic implications of this event are equally significant. Russia has long sought to demonstrate its resilience in the face of Western military aid to its adversaries. Each successful interception of a high-profile weapon serves not only as a military achievement but also as a propaganda victory. Domestically, it boosts public confidence in the armed forces and strengthens the narrative that Russia can withstand and repel even the most advanced threats supplied by its rivals. Internationally, it sends a signal to countries supplying weapons to Russian opponents. Their investments may be wasted, their strategies undermined, and their technological superiority challenged. Already, some political voices in Europe and the United States are questioning whether sending more advanced systems is truly effective or whether it merely escalates the conflict without achieving decisive results. These debates will likely intensify in the coming weeks as more details about the incident emerge. At the same time, skepticism remains high. Some analysts argue that Russia may be exaggerating the scale of its success or even fabricating certain details to influence public perception. After all, information warfare is a critical component of modern conflicts, and both sides engage in narratives designed to boost their own morale while weakening that of their opponent. Without independent verification, it is difficult to separate fact from propaganda. However, even the possibility that Russia's claims are accurate is enough to spark serious discussions among military strategists and policymakers. If proven true, it would force a re-evaluation of how Western nations plan their support, their strategies, and their reliance on high-tech missile systems. The technical side of this engagement also deserves attention. Successfully shooting down a cruise missile is no simple task. These weapons often fly at altitudes as low as 50 meters, hugging the contours of hills, forests, and urban landscapes to mask their radar signature. They can maneuver mid-flight, change altitude, and even use decoys to confuse defense systems. To intercept them, radar operators must be trained to recognize subtle anomalies, and interceptors must be capable of rapid response. Russia's reported use of the Pantsir S-1 and Buk M-3 systems in coordination with the longer-range S-400 may have created the layered shield necessary to achieve success. By combining radar data, command centers can triangulate the path of the incoming missile and calculate an intercept point within seconds. The interceptors then fire guided missiles that home in on the cruise missile's infrared or radar signature, detonating near it to destroy it midair. The fact that Russia claims multiple interceptions in a short timeframe suggests a level of coordination and readiness that few countries have demonstrated in real-world conditions. This event also raises questions about the future of cruise missile development. If defensive systems are becoming capable of neutralizing them, will nations shift toward new types of weaponry, such as hypersonic glide vehicles, swarms of autonomous drones, or cyber attacks on defense infrastructure? The arms race between offensive strike systems and defensive shields has defined warfare for decades, and each breakthrough on one side prompts an innovation on the other. For now, the downing of these new missiles serves as a reminder that no weapon is truly unstoppable, and that even the most advanced designs can be countered with sufficient preparation, technology, and determination. In conclusion, the reported interception of newly delivered cruise missiles by Russian forces represents more than just a battlefield event. It is a signal to the world that the dynamics of modern warfare are shifting, that defenses once thought incapable of stopping such weapons may now be turning the tide, and that the race between offense and defense continues to intensify. Whether one believes the Russian claims or not, the psychological and strategic impact is undeniable. This story will continue to develop, and the world will be watching closely, not just to verify the facts but to understand what they mean for the future of global security. The second layer of this story lies not only in the technical success of intercepting cruise missiles but also in the historical and geopolitical implications that ripple across the globe. To understand why this incident has been described as shocking, we must look at the role of cruise missiles in modern warfare and why their interception, especially by Russian forces, has such a profound meaning. Cruise missiles have long been associated with the military doctrine of Western powers, particularly the United States and its NATO allies. During the Gulf War in 1991, for example, American Tomahawk cruise missiles were unleashed in massive numbers to strike Iraqi infrastructure with surgical precision. The images of missiles flying low through the night sky, navigating around city buildings, and hitting targets with near-perfect accuracy became symbols of technological dominance. From that moment onward, cruise missiles were seen as tools that could intimidate, destabilize, and paralyze adversaries without putting pilots at risk. They became synonymous with American military power, a first strike option in conflicts from the Balkans to Afghanistan and Libya. Now, decades later, the narrative has taken a sharp turn. The same type of weapon once considered almost unstoppable has been destroyed in the skies by Russian defenses, suggesting that the myth of their invincibility may no longer hold true. This has created a psychological shift in the minds of both military leaders and the general public. For years, the expectation was that when Western-made cruise missiles were launched, they would reach their targets with devastating accuracy. Governments supplying them could assure their allies that the investment was worthwhile, and opponents feared the strikes, knowing that their defensive systems had little chance of success. By claiming the ability to shoot down such weapons, Russia has essentially undermined this long-standing belief, presenting itself not just as a nation defending its territory but as a state capable of nullifying one of the West's most trusted strike options. In propaganda terms, this is an enormous victory. Domestically, Russian citizens are told that their military is not only holding ground but actively defeating advanced foreign technology. Internationally, Russia signals that the billions of dollars spent on Western arms may ultimately amount to nothing if their missiles are intercepted before making impact. Such a message resonates deeply in countries around the world that are watching closely, especially those who may find themselves caught between Western influence and Russian partnerships. The geopolitical consequences of this event could be significant. Western nations supplying these advanced missiles must now reassess their strategy. If their expensive weaponry is being neutralized, then the cost-to-benefit ratio shifts dramatically. A single cruise missile can cost anywhere between $1 and $3 million, depending on its design and modifications. Meanwhile, an interceptor missile from a system like the Panzer S-1 or Buk M3 can cost far less. This imbalance creates a situation where the attacker spends millions, while the defender spends a fraction of that to nullify the attack. If repeated on a large scale, this could strain Western stockpiles, budgets, and political willpower. After all, taxpayers in NATO countries may begin to question why so much money is being invested in weapons that are increasingly failing to achieve their objectives. Politicians will face tough questions, and military planners will be pressured to either innovate or reconsider their reliance on cruise missiles. For Russia, this outcome is advantageous. It reduces the effectiveness of Western support for its adversaries while simultaneously showcasing its own technological superiority. Beyond the economics and politics, there is also the tactical evolution of modern combat to consider. In military history, every weapon eventually encounters its countermeasure. The tank was once seen as unstoppable until the anti-tank missile arrived. Aircraft revolutionized warfare, but surface-to-air missiles soon balanced the equation. Nuclear weapons created fear of absolute destruction, but treaties, missile defense systems, and international pressure limited their use. Cruise missiles were the next step in that evolutionary chain, designed to evade radars, penetrate air defenses, and strike without warning. Now, with claims of successful interceptions, we may be witnessing the birth of a new era where advanced missile defense systems begin to reclaim dominance. This does not mean cruise missiles are obsolete, but it does mean that their role in future conflicts will need to be reimagined. Perhaps they will be used in combination with hypersonic weapons, electronic jamming, or drone swarms designed to overwhelm defenses. Perhaps their guidance systems will evolve further, using artificial intelligence to outthink interceptors. But for now, their aura of untouchability has been punctured, and that is a dramatic shift in military psychology. The symbolism of this event extends far beyond the battlefield. Russia, by highlighting its success in intercepting these missiles, reinforces its narrative of resilience against Western aggression. It casts itself as a defender, not an aggressor, turning the story away from the devastation of war and toward the triumph of defense. This framing is powerful in the realm of global public opinion. Countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, many of which have struggled with the dominance of Western military power, may see Russia's achievement as a sign that the balance of power is shifting. For them, the ability of one nation to stand up to and neutralize Western technology is not just a military detail but a symbol of independence and resistance against global hegemony. This perception matters because geopolitics is not only about weapons and strategies but also about narratives, alliances, and the way stories shape relationships between nations. Of course, skepticism remains a central part of the discussion. Western officials and analysts are cautious, questioning whether Russia's claims are exaggerated or selectively presented. They ask, how many missiles were truly intercepted? Were some allowed to strike their targets but not reported? Are the images shown to the public authentic or staged? Such questions are valid because, in the fog of war, information is often as valuable as ammunition. Both sides have incentives to craft narratives that favor their strategic goals. Russia emphasizes its strength, the West emphasizes doubt about Russia's honesty. The truth may lie somewhere in between, but the perception of truth is what ultimately shapes public opinion and political decisions. If even half of Russia's claims are accurate, it still represents a remarkable achievement that cannot be dismissed outright. In this sense, the battle is not only one of missiles and interceptors but also of stories and perceptions. The phrase, shocking details, in media headlines refers not only to the technical success of downing cruise missiles but also to the broader implications for how the world views modern warfare. It shocks because it disrupts assumptions. It shocks because it challenges narratives that have been consistent for decades. And it shocks because it forces leaders, soldiers, and citizens to reconsider what is possible in the dangerous chess game of global conflict. Whether one chooses to believe every detail of the Russian account or not, the fact remains that this incident has changed the conversation, and conversations often precede changes in policy, alliances, and strategy. In conclusion, the interception of new cruise missiles by Russian forces is not merely a tactical achievement but a symbolic one. It shakes confidence in weapons once thought unstoppable, it challenges the effectiveness of Western military aid, and it projects Russia as a resilient and technologically advanced power. The economic, political, and psychological consequences are still unfolding, but the message has already been sent, the battlefield is changing, and so too are the assumptions that underpin it. The shocking details are not only in the missiles that fell from the sky but in the realization that the world of modern warfare is shifting before our eyes, perhaps more quickly than many had anticipated. As we look toward the future, the downing of these cruise missiles is not just an isolated battlefield report, it is a glimpse into the next stage of military evolution. Every conflict in history has been marked by moments where a long-standing assumption was shattered, forcing leaders, strategists, and entire nations to rethink their approach. In this case, the assumption that cruise missiles were virtually unstoppable has been directly challenged. That realization will reverberate not only through the halls of military academies but also through political offices, arms manufacturing plants, and international diplomacy. Already, defense analysts across Europe, Asia, and the United States are recalculating the risks and rewards of supplying such weapons. If missiles worth millions can be neutralized with relative ease, then what happens to the credibility of the countries that produce them? How will this affect future arms deals, military assistance packages, and the global arms market, where perception of effectiveness is just as important as reality? Russia's reported success, whether fully accurate or partially embellished, has created a conversation that cannot be ignored. From a technological perspective, the event underscores the importance of continuous adaptation. Offense and defense have always been locked in a cycle of innovation. When one side gains the upper hand, the other scrambles to respond with a countermeasure. The downing of cruise missiles suggests that the defensive side has caught up, at least temporarily. But history shows that this advantage may not last forever. Western defense contractors are already experimenting with new missile designs, stealth coatings, electronic warfare modules, and artificial intelligence-based navigation systems that could outsmart even the most advanced interceptors. Similarly, Russia will continue refining its radar, its command and control networks, and its interceptor platforms. This arms race is far from over. In fact, it may only be entering its most intense phase. The crucial point is that no technology remains dominant indefinitely. Just as tanks eventually met their match with anti-tank missiles, and aircraft had to adapt to radar-guided defenses, so too will cruise missiles evolve in response to the new reality of interception. Another key dimension of this story lies in the realm of strategy and doctrine. For decades, Western military doctrine has relied heavily on precision strikes as a way to degrade enemy capabilities while minimizing risks to their own forces. Cruise missiles were central to this doctrine because they allowed attacks without putting pilots in danger and without requiring large-scale invasions at the outset. If those missiles are no longer guaranteed to hit their targets, then entire strategies may need to be rewritten. This could push NATO countries to invest more in hypersonic weapons, cyber warfare, and unmanned aerial swarms designed to overwhelm defenses. It could also mean a shift toward more traditional methods of warfare, where ground forces and manned aircraft play a larger role. For Russia, the development is equally influential. By demonstrating strong defenses, it strengthens its deterrence, signaling that attempts at quick, decisive strikes will fail and that any conflict will be prolonged, costly, and uncertain for its adversaries. In modern warfare, deterrence is as valuable as actual combat victories, and Russia is keenly aware of that fact. Beyond the battlefield, this story touches on global perceptions of power and resilience. Nations around the world watch these developments not just to analyze weapons but to gauge which superpower has the upper hand. Smaller states that rely on Western military protection may begin to question whether that protection is as reliable as advertised. Meanwhile, countries with close ties to Russia may see this as confirmation that aligning with Moscow still offers strategic advantages in an era of shifting global alliances. Arms buyers, too, are influenced by such reports. Nations looking to modernize their militaries may be more inclined to purchase Russian-made defense systems if they believe those systems can truly intercept advanced Western missiles. That means billions of dollars in potential arms sales, as well as political influence, could be at stake. The ripple effects of one battlefield event can therefore extend into the global economy and reshape alliances in ways that go far beyond the immediate conflict. Yet, amid all this analysis, one must not forget the human element. Behind the headlines and the technical jargon are soldiers, operators, and civilians whose lives are directly affected. The interception of missiles means that potential casualties were prevented, that families were spared tragedy, and that critical infrastructure was preserved. For people living under the constant threat of airstrikes, the knowledge that their defenses are working provides a sense of security and morale that statistics and strategy cannot measure. On the flip side, for those who rely on cruise missiles as a form of protection or deterrence, the failure of these weapons can create doubt, fear, and frustration. War is not only a contest of weapons but a contest of willpower, and every intercepted missile represents both a technical success and a psychological blow to the side that launched it. This dual reality reminds us that the stories of war are always about more than machines, they are about the people caught in their shadow. As the world processes the shocking details of this event, one thing becomes clear: modern warfare is accelerating into uncharted territory. No weapon is invincible, no defense is perfect, and no strategy is eternal. The interception of new cruise missiles by Russian forces is not the end of cruise missiles, nor is it the final word on air defense technology. Instead, it is a turning point, a marker in history where assumptions were challenged, and the future of military conflict was pushed onto a new path. Whether one views this as a triumph of defense, a failure of offense, or a combination of both, the fact remains that the world will never see cruise missiles in quite the same way again. For global leaders, strategists, and ordinary citizens alike, the lesson is sobering: power is never permanent, and the balance of technology can shift in a single night. And so, as we close this story, the message that lingers is one of both caution and inevitability. Caution, because every breakthrough invites a countermeasure, and no nation can rest on the achievements of yesterday. Inevitability, because the cycle of offense and defense will continue, fueled by ambition, fear, and survival. The downing of cruise missiles is not just about missiles, it is about the enduring struggle of nations to outthink, outbuild, and outlast one another in a world where security is fragile and conflict is never far away. This is the true weight of the shocking details, not just the fiery trails in the night sky, but the realization that the contest for dominance will continue, reshaping our future in ways we are only beginning to understand.